we're a week away from September 14th. Yeah,
Topical.
it's definitely a song that I think has a lot of meaning to me, and definitely a big message.
Yeah, I know it's written. Obviously, the September 14th reference. I'm being a bad podcaster here because I'm saying things that I guess I could have you say. But
No, you can say it.
September 14th was, if I remember right, is the reference to the first date pulled for the birth dates of people that were taken in the Vietnam draft. So basically, anyone with that birthday in a certain age range. Those were the first people kind of brought in and drafted for the Vietnam War, right?
That is
Like
correct.
that's the
So
start.
it's so I first heard about this. Now I'm from Canada. We don't have a lot of like Canadian history like this kind of shit
Mm-hmm.
that we learn about in school. And I assumed when I heard about this, I listened to a podcast. The podcast it's a great podcast called The Memory Palace,
Mm-hmm.
and they have an episode about this. And it's short. It's like 10 minutes. You should listen to it. This is basically where I got the idea for the song. And I assumed this would have been something that every kid would have learned in school, that this happened. But no Americans I talked to had ever even heard of this. And what happened was they were decided they were going to have a draft, which is insane anyway, because like this is 1969, I think 1968,
Mm-hmm.
like not that many years ago, really, dude. Like our parents were adults when this
Right.
was happening, for the most part. I think my mom would have been like 16, but whatever, right? My dad was an adult. So, it's not that long ago. And what they did was they had a televised show
Yeah.
where they literally took every date, 366 days, including leap year, and they put them in these plastic pills, the dates like rolled up in a piece of paper, and they put them in this giant metal bowl, and they used this, I'll call it a spatula because that's what it was, to stir up the dates. And then they reached somebody, I don't remember who it was, had the fucking job of reaching into the bowl and saying, this is the day, if you're between the ages of 18 and 35 or whatever it was, you're going to war. Like you're getting called first. September 14th. And that was the date. And then they went after that, they went in, they kept going in, and they kept picking out dates. So it must have been weird, right? Like you get enlisted, like everyone has the same birthday, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
What a
weird.
It's a weirdly
Yeah.
weird way to do it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe just like the people that want to go could go first. I don't know, but what the fuck do I know? Maybe they already exhausted that option. I don't know the history of it, but I remember hearing about this, and the way that they did it in the podcast was so emotional, and the way that they pictured it, like they said it, like imagine someone sitting in the car, like having the radio on, because that was the reality. A lot of people didn't have televisions right at that point, so it was like sitting in the car listening to a radio of this, and then hearing September 14th and realizing that that's your birthday and your life is about to change forever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing I took. I wrote the song from a person who would have been in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
So
a fantastic song.
That's what it's about.
It's a fantastic song, and as as an American that actually enjoys learning about history, I knew a lot of things about the Vietnam draft. There's some issues about, obviously wealthy people, kids being more easily available to kind of dodge it and get out of it. We actually have two presidents that it's on record that they did that at that time. But I didn't know that was how they did it until I had heard you when the record first came out, kind of talk about it in a quick interview I had listened to, and also just kind of read through the lyrics, and the sample at the very beginning of the song I think is from that that isn't that right? Isn't there a sample in the song that is like from that actually televised
Yes,
event, right?
that's right.
Um,
Yeah, that's right. We had I forgot because we added that. We added that at the like 11th hour.
yeah.
It's
Well,
so
it's a
funny
cool
that
little
I literally
yeah.
forgot that was that was in there. Because yeah, we added it so late. Um, but yeah, that's what it is, right? It's when
Hmm.
they go through it, and I think you can watch that video on YouTube. I think we literally just pulled it off of YouTube, which is insane. But
Yeah, yeah, that's what
yeah,
a lot of people do now for samples. So it makes sense.
hmm
But I know a big part of that was, and I'm just bringing this up not to like talk about this much more, but a big reason why they had to do that, unlike the World War II draft, which was you just had this mass movement of like a world war where you needed so many more people than were readily available for a military project. It was that
right,
recruitment was really really low at that time. You had the kind of had like the cultural revolutions going on in the 60s, hippies
yeah,
and civil rights movements and things like that kind of painted the military in a less like overall. I'm not shitting on people that have been in the military. I'm just talking overall blanketly. It wasn't viewed as this like honorary thing as much to everybody. And so over a third of the people in the war for Vietnam were drafted as a result. Only 2/3 were volunteers. I just bring that up
okay.
because right now the United States military is facing an unprecedented recruitment crisis. So just it's kind of interesting with the
Well,
context of that.
let me tell you this, which is interesting that you say that. So my nephew just turned 18 on August 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And literally on the day of his birthday, they called him.
Yep.
The recruitment people called him on his. They don't. How they got his number? No idea.
Yep.
Hey man, what are you doing next year? It's like I'm going to university in Canada. And they're like, okay, well, never mind. But hey, man, if you change your mind, we're here. If you want to like defend your country, or it's true. But dude, like, then if that's the case, and they're desperate for people, I mean, how long till there's a draft again? Why wouldn't there be?
That's kind of why I brought it up. Yeah, it's just an interesting phenomenon. You hope doesn't happen, right? But
Dude,
like it's just it's
history
it.
has a way of repeating
Yep.
itself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
1969, when that draft took, I assume that was the last time there was a draft. I don't know.
Yeah. Last time was Vietnam. Yep.
So I mean, yeah, it's all pretty wild. It's all pretty wild. But yeah, that's what I wrote September 14th about.
Yeah, I again bring it up because it's a very specific topic that, in some ways, like you just said, history repeats itself. You can kind of see, there's a recruitment, like I said, and you bring up the thing about your nephew. It's like, I'm not going to talk about this too much because it's my job, but like, it's the one thing, the military is the one thing that at lunch, once or twice a week, there's recruiters at a table, right? In the cafeteria at a school, right? Like that's just like how it's going right now. So it's just an interesting song topic that, in some ways, while it's specific, is it can be pertained to today. So appreciate you going over that.